Hello everyone. Um, we are discussing Progress of Poesy by Thomas Gray, and this is the third part of the poem, the third section of the poem. We have discussed two sections in which the poet talks about origin of poetry, its effect, how it controls our emotions, and then in second section he talks about uh, movement of poetry from Greek to Italy and then from Italy to England. In the third section, he discusses the notable writers or notable poets of Britain or England. So let's begin the first part, first stanza of third section. Far from the sun and summer gale, in thy green lap was nature's darling laid. Now he talks about the one who is the darling of nature, the favorite of nature, who was born in the green green lap of England. Green lap means green plains of Britain, far from sun and summer gale, far away from heat of tropical sun and far from the storms of summer. So he is talking about Shakespeare, the greatest of British poets and dramatists. Okay, and the one who was darling of nature, and that means who wrote about nature, and has gifted him the nature has given him the gift of poetry. What time were lucid Avon straight, to him the mighty mother did unveil. What time were lucid Avon straight? That was the time when lucid Avon straight. Uh, um, the lucid is clear Avon, start river Avon, where Shakespeare was born at Stratford, on the banks of river Avon he was born, and at that time the river Avon was clear, means it was clear and transparent, its waters were clear and transparent. So when Shakespeare born, everything was, he was the darling of nature, and nature was very uh, you know um, we can say that nature was very favorable to the poet, and the water of Avon was also clear. To him the mighty mother did unveil her awful face. To him the mighty mother is the um, mother nature mother. It unveiled, it uncovered her awful face, her strange face. So the child Shakespeare, uh, that was a time when the mighty Mother Nature revealed her terrifying and stern face to him at Stratford on the banks of River Avon, the water of which is clear and transparent. That is what the poet wants to say. The dauntless child stretched forth his little arms and smiled. The dauntless child, the brave child, the fearless child, the bold child, he stretched forth. He stretched his little arms and smiled. He accepted the awful mystery of nature and spread his little arms, impressing what nature has engrossed in it. This pencil take, she said, whose colors clear richly paint the vernal air. This so nature spoke to Shakespeare thus, take this pencil, with the clear colors of which you will be able to write, richly paint the vernal air, the spring beauties of the spring. So you will be able to write about the rich colors of the spring with the help of this pencil. The pencil is the means the writing art, the art of writing, the skill of writing which Shakespeare possessed. 9 2. These golden keys, immortal boy. So these golden keys are also yours. Take these golden keys, you immortal boy. And why immortal? Because he has been immortalized in his verses, and even after centuries we are discussing Shakespeare. Even after death of so many years of death of Shakespeare, Gray was talking about him and we are still talking about him. That means he is someone who was gifted by this gift of um, nature. Okay. Thine to these golden keys, immortal boy, this can unlock the gates of joy. So here is the key which will be enable you to open the locks of the gates of joy. Means he was capable of writing comedy, of horror, that and thrilling fears. And here is another key with which you can open the gates of horror and thrilling fears. Means you will be able to write tragedies or ope the sacred source of sympathetic tears, and you will be able to open the tears of sympathy, that means the catharsis. So these lines from 92 to 94 is that Shakespeare was endowed by nature with the gift of writing both comedies and joyful dramas, or tragedies or dramas which arouse terror and pity. So these are all the qualities of this poet Shakespeare. Now, in the second stanza of that third section, he talks about Milton. Nor second he that rode sublime upon the seraph wings of ecstasy, the secrets of the abyss to spy. Nor second he, and there was he, that means Milton, who is not second, who is second to none. Okay, because Milton was also an expert in writing poetry. So in the sphere of writing epic poetry, Milton is not second one. He is equal to all the primary epic writers like Horace, Virgil, Homer, etc. Sophocles, and many Greek writers are there. That rode sublime upon the seraph wings. That rode sublime, who rode sublime. He was very lofty, is in style and theme. He was very aloft, and he used to have very high quality themes. Upon the seraph wings, upon the wings of angels or angelic wings. Here can be we can say that there is a reference to Paradise Lost, because he has discussed all the angels and devils in Paradise Lost. Of ecstasy, the secret of the abyss to spy. And the secret of abyss, the abyss here mentions to the bottomless pit or the chaos which is mentioned in Paradise Lost. So he could he could fly away or to great heights upon the angel wings of poetic inspiration in order to probe the mysteries of the limitless region known as chaos. Okay, wings of ecstasy, wings of poetic inspiration. Ecstasy here means poetic inspiration. He passed the flaming bounds of place and time. He passed the flaming bounds of place and time, and he ascended above the fiery walls of earthly world of time and space. So the flaming bound, the fearful boundaries which destroys everything. So he could pass those lines, those boundaries which were created by God and which were created by nature. So he could surpass them, because he is still an immortal figure, and there is no one who could exceed Milton in writing poetry or epics. Okay. The reference we can say when he is talking about the writing style of Milton, he has taken reference from the Paradise Lost, because it is considered as the most sublime work of Milton. So Milton, he ascended above the fairy walls of earthly world of time and space, and the living thorn, the sapphire blaze, and he could see the flaming thorn. He could surpass the flaming boundaries of time and place, and he could witness the living thorn of God, the sapphire blaze. So Milton had the courage to look at God, but which looked like sapphire, and while gazing at this, where angels tremble while they gaze. So he could gaze at the place where even angels trembled with the fear of Lord. Means God or its throne or God's throne is so dazzling that we cannot witness it, we cannot see it, we cannot see it with our naked eyes, with our open eyes. But Milton had the quality to uh, look at it, and here we can say Milton had the courage to criticize the you know politics at those time, like King Charles and his minister. He has the qualities to criticize them, but no other courtiers could speak. Okay, so look how highly figurative language the poet is using. Okay, so he says he saw but blasted with excess of light. So Milton had the courage to look at God in his heart, but he was dazzled with that excessive light and blasted with excess of light. Blasted, he was dazzled, he was struck blind, he lost his eyesight forever because of that. The idea is that Milton became blind on account of his excessive study in preparing to write Paradise Lost. Got it? Okay. Closed his eyes in endless night, and he closed his eyes, and his eyes were closed in the endless night. The muse take away his sight. Poetess of goddess of poetry, it take away his eyesight. He could not see, but he was granted with power of sweet song by the muses. Okay. uh, Behold, now again he asks us to look. Behold, look, where Dryden's less presumptuous car, Dryden's less presumptuous, less ambitious car, less ambitious chariot, white over the fields of glory bear, over the fields of fame and glory and renown, uh, two courses of ethereal race, which used to work on two horses or two horses of celestial descent. Ethereal race, celestial descent, or the heavenly qualities. So Dryden, now look, so he has talked about Milton, he has spoken about Milton, now he talks about Dryden in these 4 lines, that how beautifully he could drive his chariot of ambitions with the help of two horses. And which are the two horses? The heroic couplet. So Gray here refers to the Dryden's thunderous and rhetorical use of the heroic couplet in various branches of poetry. So look at Dryden's less ambitious chariot being drawn over fields of fame and renown, fields of glory, fields of fame and renown, by two courses of ethereal race, two horses of celestial descent or of heavenly quality, divine quality, with necks in thunder clothed and long resounding pace, with necks clothed in thunder and travelling with great vigour at a pace that the echoes of which are heard for a long time. Okay, so in the various branches of poetry where Dryden used heroic couplet in a very thunderous way, in a very, Dryden was famous for writing satires. So in writing satires, he was so thunderous, he was so marvelous in writing satires, and long resounding pace, and at a speed that the sound of his whatever he has written was echoing, resounding for many years, and still it can be heard. So Gray uh, appreciates Dryden again in these highly figurative lines. So first he talks about Shakespeare in 3.1. In 3.2 he talks about Milton, who was of uh, great ecstasy, and who could produce greatest of literature, and he became blind when he was studying hard to write Paradise Lost. So he had the courage to witness the God. He has the courage to witness the God, and he could speak about God's glory. Um, After that, he talks about Dryden, who was no less than Milton, but was less ambitious, and His chariot was driven by two horses of glory, two horses of fame, and these horses were the heroic couplet, the style of writing which Dryden used in his language. 3.3, again he's continuing his discussion about Dryden. So hark, his hands the lyre explodes. So hark, listen, his hands, Dryden's hands. Now he is exploring lyre, or he is exploring the lyrical poetry. So Dryden is now trying the possibilities of lyrical poetry. So he has also not only written satires, but he has also written lyrical poetries also. Bright-eyed fancy hovering over the poetic imagination, which is bright-eyed, which is keen and clear. It hovers over Dryden and scatters from her pictured urn, and from its beautiful store provides him pictured urn, a store which has which and now the image which he wants to them give, that Dryden is carrying an urn which is pictured, which is engraved, and he is spreading the poetical beauty from his works. Okay, so his beautiful store provides him with thoughts that have life and vitality, thoughts that breathe, thoughts that were alive, and words that burn, words that had the burn, that has the fire, that has the force. So Dryden, from his beautiful store of poetry, provides with thoughts that have life and vitality, and words that have force and fire. But it's heard no more. But alas, the voice of Dryden can be heard no more. The voice of Dryden is too silent now. So, what he means to say, that there are no more poets like Dryden. O lyre divine, what daring spirit wakes thee now? O divine lyrical poetry, who is this courageous spirit? What is that darling spirit? What is that dear spirit which has the capacity to wake you up now? Though he inherit not the pride, though he inherit. Now, he's talking about that who has the brave hand that now dares to write lyrical poetry after Dryden has ceased to write. So he says, uh, though he inherit. So he is talking about himself now. Though I am inherit not the pride, but I am not inherited by the pride, by the magnificence. But I am myself is that poet who is trying to write, but I am not inherited with the magnificence of the earlier poets like Pindar, nor ample pinion, and I do not have wings of opinion are the wings. So I do not have the wings of imagination that the Theban angel, Theban eagle bear. The Theban eagle was Pindar, the Greek poet who has been the inspiration for Gray. So the poetic flight is meant here, that I do not have that magnificence, I do not have that flights of imagination like the Theban eagle Pindar used to carry. Sailing with supreme dominion through the azure deep of air, smoothly sailing with supreme dominion, with utmost self-confidence through the azure deep of air, through the blue sky, yet oft before his infant eyes would run such forms as glitter in the muse's ray, yet often before his infant eyes would run, before his infant eyes, as a child, as an infant, I saw such shapes floating before my eyes, uh, such forms as glitter in the muse's ray, the forms which were glittering, which were shining into the colors of poetry, into the poetry's color. With orient hues unborrowed of the sun, with orient hues, with bright colors which were unborrowed of the sun, which are not dried by the sun, means the colors which are not taken from the sun or the masters of the poetry. Sun here symbolizes the master of the poetry. So the my inspiration are those masters, but the colors I am using to write my poetry are the native of my own genius. Yet shall he mount and keep his distant way. Yet still I will keep on mounting, I will keep on soaring, I will keep on rowing the wings of poetry and keep the distance way, keep my own way of writing poetry beyond the limits of a beyond the limits of a vulgar fate, uh, in spite of the limitation of my vulgar faith, the avoiding the fate that is in store for inferior poets. So maybe I can even meet those limits of the fate beneath the good how far, but far above the great. So my position will be far higher than in the persons who are regarded as the great in the worldly sense, but I shall be far below from those who are worthy or noble in moral sense. So, after Dryden, he says that the good poetry has been ceased to be written. Divine poetry, no one is writing divine poetry, so he does not, appreciate Pope or Swift, and he does not appreciate Johnson or other writers. Of his contemporary era. So he says, "Oh, divine lyrical poetry, you who will take the courage to write lyrical poetry after Dryden?" So he says, "I am myself that poet. Although I have inherited neither the magnificence nor the large wings which carried the Theban poet Pindar and enabled him to fly smoothly and with supreme self confidence through the vast regions of the blue sky, still, often as a child, I saw such shapes floating before my eyes as shine in the light of the muse with richly bright colors and are not derived from other masters of poetry. These shapes were native to my own genius. In spite of my limitations, I shall keep writing poems, maintaining a distant course and avoiding the fate that is in store for inferior poets." Means I will not meet the same fate as the inferior poets. So my position will be far higher than that of persons who are regarded as great in the worldly sense, but I shall be far below those who are worthy and noble in moral sense. So this is the progress of poesy, a poem which answers the question that what is poetry and what is the value of poetry. Okay, these all questions are answered in this poem. So here ends the poem, and I'll be sharing PDF notes of the poem with all of you in the group, and we'll be discussing any problems if you have. So thank you very much.